special report looking toward next June's SBC Pastors Conference in Anaheim, California. I'm your host, Jennifer Rash, and joining me is current president of the Pastors Conference, Dr. Matt Henslee, associational mission strategist for Collin Baptist Association in Fairview, Texas. Matt, welcome.
Hey, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
All right. Well, I'm excited because I have heard that we're just hours away from the big reveal.
We are.
All right. So you're doing something a little different. This is very creative. And I think maybe the first time ever it's typically just a news release and pretty, quiet. But tell us a little bit about how you're going to reveal the lineup for the 2022 Pastors Conference.
So it's good to have creative friends. Sometimes I might have a creative idea, but I can't always figure out how to pull it off. And I found some other creative friends that did have the ability to pull it off. Mm-hmm. And we threw the 12 names together of the preachers that we have. And I just had this idea really on the spur of the moment. I put it on Twitter and it got some traction. And so I was like, hey, we'll just roll with it. And it was a song, The 12 Days of Christmas. And it's always an earworm. It just gets stuck in there. You get the words messed up or the days messed up. But I thought we could do the 12 days of pastors because there's 12 pastors and there's apparently 12 days of Christmas. And so our idea was we were going to put all of these guys in the song to the tune of 12 Days of Christmas and just see what happened. And what happened next is not probably going to win like a Dove Award, but it was a whole lot of fun, and we had a ton of fun recording it, a ton of fun kind of making a music video for it with some clips of the preachers that are actually preaching and so forth, and really just, like I said, had a blast pulling it together, and was a combination effort of myself, James Cheeseman, who's our worship pastor at First Baptist Church in Farmersville, and a few other kind of music-minded friends of mine, Kyle Bierman and Aaron Ledford, and like I said, just had a blast.
Oh, that is so fun. You're actually making it seem fun to be planning the conference.
Well, you kind of have to when part of the job is raising a ton of money and there's absolutely nothing fun about that. You have to look for fun in all the weird places. And so we thought, instead of just sending out a normal release of here's the 12 guys, now go and find out about them, we just thought we'll just let you see them. But with it being Christmas, why not make it a little Christmas flair and have a little fun with it? There's a lot of stress, especially for pastors and really for everybody that comes with the holidays. We feel kind of stretched thin with our Christmas parties and the family get-togethers, maybe the drama that may be there. Of course, we still have this pandemic going on and everything else that we thought in the midst of all of that and all of the drama that can sometimes be, especially on the social media side of things, like let's just do something that is completely and totally fun, that we can laugh, that we can celebrate, that we can smile in the middle of kind of all of the other chaos that's going on. And so like I said, it was so much fun. We recorded it on the heels of our Christmas cantata at church, and it was like the perfect kind of respite from that. Like, it was a lot of work, but it was just completely kind of mindless work and just fun and getting in the Christmas spirit a few weeks early.
I love it. I love it. Now, are you going to be front and center in that music video?
So in the very beginning, I introduce it in an absolutely hideous Christmas sweater, which I'm known to wear. I typically will preach during the holidays in a Christmas suit or an ugly Christmas sweater. So I'm in one of those like trademark sweaters. And I was actually in the process of setting up for our CBA Christmas luncheon, and I saw that their chapel in the church we were in was not in use. And so I jumped in there real quick. There was a Christmas tree behind me. I put the camera up. I did a little intro. But then during the video, James Cheeseman and I, who are recording the music and so forth for it, we made like a B-roll film of us kind of playing random like kid instruments or guitars. I'm playing a classical guitar, which I don't really know how to play, but I'm playing it in all the wrong ways. Like I played it like a violin. And so then we just kind of spliced that together along with the music and just made it a whole lot of fun. So a little bit front and center, but we really tried to make most of it each of the preachers as they come into the song and so forth, with some clips of them preaching when we could find those, or some great pictures of them, maybe their family, that kind of deal.
Okay. Well, with the fun promo and the fun release, is that giving some kind of hint of how the tone of the conference will be, or how does that play out?
I sure hope so. Like, we're going to handle the Word of God seriously, but I hope handle ourselves less seriously. Like, we're going to have a good time, but that's the same thing that's a message that I try to get across to pastors is ministry itself can be very heavy at times, very draining at times, and if we take ourselves too seriously, too much of the time, it's going to be hard to last. And so we need to be able to laugh. And in fact, my last secretary at the church I served, that was what I said to her. Like, the only job requirement I have for you is, no moral failure, that kind of thing, but then the ability to have fun. We need to laugh. We need to do all of that kind of stuff. And we did. We made ministry fun. And so the same thing, we're going to handle the Word of God very seriously. The 12 guys that we have that are preaching all affirm the 2000 Baptist faith and message. All of them affirm the Chicago statement of inerrancy. We could have made sure they affirmed several others, but we really wanted to make sure it was key around who we are as Southern Baptists and our commitment to Scripture. So we're going to handle Scripture very seriously, but we're going to have a whole lot of fun through the music and some of the presenters and so forth that come along the way. And so yes, it is a little bit of foreshadowing there for what we can expect in Anaheim.
Oh, fun. Well, I noticed you had mentioned the confirming a commitment to affirming the various statements. Did you feel it necessary to actually say that for any particular reason?
I did. It's one of those where for me, I like to know what I'm getting into, and not every conference is the same way, but many conferences that maybe you go to, it's sort of like the line from Forrest Gump, life being like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. For us, I wanted that to be based on, you never know what you're going to get in terms of who they are, or maybe the types of churches they serve, or maybe you never heard of them before. But I didn't want there to be any surprises when it came to what they believed, what they stood on, what they were about. And so while there's nothing wrong with having preachers from maybe outside of our convention of churches, I just felt when we have over 40,000 churches, there has to be at least 12 pastors who can faithfully preach the Word. In fact, over the course of this, we sought recommendations and nominations, got some 450, 500 or so nominations that came in. We listened to hundreds of sermons. The hardest part of this job is probably not the fundraising that we have to do, but was picking those 12 guys from among them. Like, part of me was like, let's just use all of these 400 people or 500 people and just give them like 2 minutes apiece. That's what I wanted to do because they were so great.
Yes, right, Matt. That would happen, right? 2 minutes.
Yeah. 2 minutes to pastor is, that's not happening at all. But, we would have been there for 10 weeks. And so hopefully you have, extended stay. But that was something I just really feel committed around, was while there's nothing wrong with going outside of our family for a conference like this, we've done it in the past. It's been a blessing, all of that. I really thought at least once, let's stay within the family and really show what we are about as a Southern Baptist Convention. So mega churches all the way to even almost micro churches, tiny churches, revitalization efforts, established churches, church plants, replants, and really where everybody on that platform that's going to preach, somebody in the seat can say, that guy knows exactly what I'm going through, or is in a church exactly like mine, or whatever it is. There's nobody that's going to be in the seats that is going to see somebody on that stage and say, that guy doesn't represent what I'm about. And so that was just something I felt firmly convicted about. And so I just wanted to make it clear from the outside, we're going to surprise you with who it is and the types of churches they're from, but we're not going to bring any surprises about what they affirm and who they are as Southern Baptists.
And I love that you have such a variety. So you are hitting all the different, such a diverse ministry context with the lineup. That had to be an interesting way to go through those 450 and Had to do all that. How in the world did you go through 450 nominees just since June of this year and pull that off?
I don't have a life.
Okay.
No, one, we've got a team. Cameron Triggs and Sam Greer are, Cam is our vice president, Sam is our treasurer. And so a lot of times, I would kind of go through, kind of the lion's share of them. We did have a few duplicates where people would maybe send in the same person, or maybe it was somebody that knew them from years ago, that why don't you consider this guy? There's all of that coming in too. So we were able to narrow it down a little bit. And then one of the things we had in our list were their average church size. So, the immediate point that they don't affirm the Baptist Faith and Message or the Chicago Statement, we were able to remove them. Then we were able to kind of break them up between their size, where they were. We wanted to represent kind of all across the country. So we go as far as Florida, all the way over to California, and really everything in between. And so we were able to kind of break them up. And so when I would find a few mega church guys, then I would send one to Cam, one to Sam, one to me, and we'd listen to it, kind of offer some feedback. Then medium church, small church, then finding some across the country. We just really, teamwork makes the dream work, as they say, and that's how we pulled it off. Was really breaking it up in manageable chunks. The other side is I get up very early in the morning, and so can listen to some of those, and often I would put it on in the background while I would maybe be writing something or working on something else, and a lot of times how they were preaching brought me in. And so I would put away what I was working, and I'd listen to them and say, this is somebody we need to consider a little more. And that's what we ended up, some that I'd never heard of, still haven't even met, and have only had a few conversations with, but was listening to their sermons, going back to listen to even more, and like, this guy is what we need on the stage, on the platform. And so we just broke it up. That was really the key, and listened to a whole lot of sermons. And as preachers, sometimes that's fun. And we try not to critique or anything like that. It was just what really sticks out is somebody that's handling the text very well, because this is going to be an expositional, text-driven conference that's going to go through a Bible, through not the entire Bible, but through a book of the Bible, verse by verse. And so I was looking for guys that were doing that in a regular basis. So this wasn't, we were asking them to do something different. So that made it sometimes a little easier and a little more manageable.
Okay. You could probably listen quickly and move those along.
And yes, the ones on YouTube, I could speed them up.
I like
and
it.
So
I like it.
that was helpful sometimes as well.
I love it. I love it. Well, in my mind, I can understand the category of a church plant or a small church or even a medium church. Help us understand what you deemed as a mega church.
And I guess the textbook answer, I don't always know, because every textbook kind of has a different list. We have, and I think the most typical working one is about 2,000 or more. Large church is usually going to be about 750 to the 2,000 mark, then medium below that, and then normative, which is what, people like Mark Clifton or Kyle Bierman, the replant guys, they'll talk about normative, because that's the lion's share of our Southern Baptist Convention is 500 or less, or even more so, 250 or less. And so we have two that are textbook mega churches, being that they are over 2,000. We have two or three that are in kind of that large category of maybe 500 to 700 or so, a few medium size, and I think it's 5 small church, quote unquote, churches that are under 100 even. And one of which is a church plant that he launched like 3 months before the pandemic, was getting some great traction. And then here comes COVID-19 and sort of attempted to derail everything. They're back on track, doing great. And it was important for me to kind of keep him in mind, because that's something that every pastor faced. And not everybody tried to launch a church in COVID-19, but all of us were like trying to launch Vision 2020 stuff and all these big things for the big new year.
Forget all that, right?
We forgot that real quick. And so this is a guy that he has been working for months at building a core group and doing all of this stuff, build and build and build. And then here comes COVID like a wrecking ball. And so, but he hung on and persevered through it. The church is doing well, running 70 or 60 people on an average Sunday. And so that was really important to me, especially that kind of universal experience every pastor has had over the last 2 years.
Wow. Right. I know our generation had the best theme and tagline ever for nothing. We couldn't use it.
I still look back on, I do a lot of my artwork and graphics and stuff on Canva because I'm not good at Photoshop, all that kind of stuff. So I use Canva, and I still look back, and I haven't deleted it precisely because it still makes me laugh, is I had this beautiful graphic of Vision 2020 for my church that I was serving at the time that was like an eye chart with IMBC or something like that. And then the little Vision 2020 logo at the bottom. And I was like, God thought that was so bad that he sent a pandemic to the world. That's what it kind of felt like. But yeah, so that's something that all of these guys have persevered through well. They all are family men. They're leading and loving their families well, leading and loving their churches well. And so I'm excited about the entire list. We've got, like I said, young guys that are just starting out with the church plant, guys that are wrapping up their ministry after decades of faithful service, and so it's really exciting to see all of those pieces kind of come together, and like I said, really reflect what the Southern Baptist Convention is as a whole.
Will you ever have all of them in the same place at the same time? That would just be such a neat moment.
We are working on it. One of our sponsors, Southwestern Seminary, is offering a time for us to come for like a symposium or a preaching workshop, and we've got some new kind of fresh, brand new pastors. We've got some seasoned pastors, but they really want to bring us together where we can work through the text together to make sure that it kind of flows. Kind of building upon one another, staying in tune with what the main context is and so forth. And so they've offered that, I believe it's in February. And, with the nature of travel and some of that kind of stuff, some may be able to Zoom in. I know we're all tired of Zoom, though I'm grateful for the chance to visit with you over Zoom. But some of our guys that may not be able to come will be able to, tune in on Zoom. But the other time, we're hoping to maybe have a little fun together, maybe go to Top Golf or go out to eat, where we really do come together as friends, as co-laborers that are uniting around this specific vision for our pastors' conference.
And that is unique as well as just your creative way of announcing, because so often the speaker, the preacher will fly in and drop in for the slot on the program and be back out. So to think that you're bringing that together, letting them get to know each other, building some kind of team feel, family feel, that's very interesting. And to think too, that would prevent, how many times have we had two guys show up and almost preach the same sermon or something similar, so that would definitely help there.
In one neat kind of really what I would call a God thing is, as we were breaking up the book, which we haven't released yet, I almost did accidentally at an event.
Oh, no.
We're trying to hold a little bit out as we go towards June. But as we're breaking up, I realized that I could break up this text because it is already broken up into 12 passages. But I could assign, people that I thought could preach this one well, whatever. But the more that I thought about it, the more that I said, I'm just going to turn it over to them. And so we sent out an email and asked them to list out their top three passages or the three that they felt most comfortable with. And then, kind of rank them accordingly. And then by the end of it, once we got all of those 12 responses back, we already have all of those kind of things assigned. Like everybody had picked at least one of the ones that we had. So nobody like ignored one passage and I'm going to be like, hey, sorry, could you really do this one? Nobody else. Like it's all going to work out. And so that was a whole lot of fun. Almost half of them, I believe, picked one passage in particular. There's also one of the most well-known one in the book. And so that was natural, but everybody else in their second and third picks have something that somebody else didn't. So we have the whole lineup really just from their interaction with the 12 texts.
Wow. And so I'm assuming you're always got a contingency plan. Somebody gets sick, somebody can't make it. What is one of the officers on standby?
We're figuring some of that out. We do have some alternate preachers kind of based on, if they've preached through that book before, that kind of thing, that we do have some backup plans, and we're praying that doesn't happen.
Right.
Our biggest thing, of course, I've joked with a few people that the pastors conference surprise is just going to be 12 sermons from me. But that's not it.
Woo!
That was one, I don't have the voice for it. Like preaching in back-to-back services is bad enough. And so that's not going to be me. But no, we do have some backup plans.
Well, and saying that 12 sermons is a lot, Matt. That's a lot to sit through, right? So it starts Sunday evening, correct? And then it's all day Monday. How do you do that? How do you keep people able to absorb that many sermons back to back to back?
One is knowing that it's available forever, right? We're going to have the audio, the video, and so forth available forever. And also knowing that in every year, a lot of times people are coming in late or having to leave for other meetings and so forth. So very few are able to stay from beginning to end. So we realize that side. We've also kind of broken up that book into kind of the main overarching parts of the book, so that one session can kind of be devoted to one key part of the book, another one the next. And then our worship leaders, which is Matt Boswell and the Cowden Hall Band of Southwestern Seminary, are going to be picking the songs that are tie into some of those things. So we really want each of those kind of sessions to really feel like and seem like everything, like just a regular worship service. It's going to have music and giving and praying and preaching, all of that kind of stuff together. And so it is a lot, because we also have two guest preachers that are going to preach that we announced before, Adam Greenway and Daniel Ritchie. And so they have some unique stories to tell that will also break it up too a little bit to be different. But again, it is a lot to take in. And we're grateful for technology that we have to maybe listen to a little more if maybe I drowned out or I had to step away or something like that. And so it's going to be a tall task, but I also believe that the word is going to do its work and really encourage and lift up our pastors that come and their families.
And okay, so it's in Anaheim. It will be in the same convention center as the
same
SBC
venue and everything. Yes, we'll have our own sponsor tables, booths, and so forth for that. We've also, in past years, it can sometimes feel a little bit like a running infomercial. We've tried to pick very key partners that are not so much a sales pitch, but also what we are about, our entities and so forth. It really is going to be the Southern Baptist Convention Pastors Conference. And so Southern Baptist Convention sponsors and so forth that are really helping us through that. And so when they are presenting and so forth, it's not so much, hey, you can go and buy this for $8,000 or something. It's more like, here, this is what you are doing through sending missionaries, or the other, this is what you have done through church planting and so forth. And so that's another kind of key component of the whole thing.
And in my past reporting, the way I understand the way the Pastors Conference is funded, traditionally the SBC Executive Committee has voted to provide a little bit of money to help toward the venue in most years. And then the rest is up to the officers to fundraise, correct? And that's where these sponsors are coming in.
It's kind of like, congratulations, now go raise $500,000. That's
Right.
really what it kind of feels like. We have worked very hard to cut our spending to just what we need. We don't need flashy. We don't need, all these, the big production, because it's really centralized around the preaching of God's word. And so we've done everything we can on the kind of the outside to cut, But then, of course, it's in Anaheim, California. So hotels are a little more. Flying from Florida or North Carolina is a little more, there's all those kind of added costs where we're still expecting it to be probably around 400,000.
Mm-hmm.
And we have about 3/4 of that raised through generous friends, where they've given anywhere from $2. A friend of mine, kind of as a joke, did that, and he's, I think, from Alabama. Since I'm talking to you, I'll be happy to call him out, Jared Cornut.
All right, Jared.
Good
job.
But yes, he gave $2, but we've gone all the way up in terms of individual donations to 20,000, 30,000. So every little bit truly does help, so that we're not relying on, hey, like, post-it notes. Will you please just sponsor this? Or say, like whatever we have to do just to make it happen. And because I don't quite know what happens if we don't raise it. Like, did they just like send me a bill? I don't know. But
I was wondering, congratulations, Matt, you get to pay it off. Is that
yes.
what?
And then I'm in bankruptcy. So, but yeah, so we're working hard to one, steward that money very well, to know, just like in a church area, there's things that maybe we want to do, and then things that we must do. And so we're really focusing around the things that we must do and must do well. And then all the other stuff that might be wants, we can do if that money is there. And so that's why we're working really hard with kind of keying in on some of our Southern Baptist family to pull that off.
Because I know with the venue, you get that cost, and if you probably have to pay for staffing from the conference center itself, convention center, the lighting, any kind of video production you're going to do, the speakers, their travel, their meals, their hotel. It does add up. It doesn't seem like it should really be that much, but over all the pieces and parts, and like you said, where it's located is going to be a little more expensive as well.
The way I've also often realized it is when I take my wife out for a date, I'm like, wow, this was cheap. Because we have 4 daughters. And so a normal meal out at like Taco Bell or Dairy Queen is very expensive. So I kind of feel like that. Me going to California is an expense. But when you times that by the 12 preachers, the guest preachers, the musicians, and then their hotels and everything else, when you multiply that by 20 or so, it adds up very quickly. And so we're working hard to keep that as low as we possibly can. So surprise preachers, you're going to be flying on Spirit Airlines.
I think an RV across country and pick them
there
up.
There you go. Just drop off an RV at everybody. Yeah, y'all make it however you can.
I love it. Well, we'll be sure to put a link in the show notes for your page there if anyone wanted to donate toward the effort. So that'll be there. I was thinking too, as you were talking about looking at not necessarily having to make it the big production that maybe in some years it's been. Does that have anything to do with the fact that I've noticed that just even with your story, more and more the last decade, the leaders have been a more diverse mix, not always a large church pastor who maybe had more resources at his disposal. Does that kind of tie into just what maybe some of the leaders are used to because they've had a tighter budget?
I'm not entirely sure that I understood the question, but I
know that was not convoluted at all the way I asked that.
it's something that what in going to them, as a visit, as an attendee, and then talking to people of just friends of mine that I know have gone for many years or gone to several conferences. It's not just the SBC Pastors Conference, but any conference. Like when you go, what do you remember as good things? What's distracting? What really sticks out? All that kind of stuff. And it's also like asking the opinion of a Baptist. You get like 3 or 4 of them if you just ask one. So that made it somewhat difficult. But I also found that in the past, in not just the SBC Pastors Conference, but any of them, where it just felt like we were being kind of sold something the whole time. And so that was just a continual theme. Mm-hmm. And so from that side, whether they had done it before or differently or small church, big church, whatever, I just wanted to make sure that all of the key time that we have in front of the mics, under the lights, is going to be centralized around biblical worship through preaching and praying and singing. And so we still have to pay the bills. We've got to turn on the lights and the mics. And so there's certain things that we still have to do to pull that off. But I know in past years where that fundraising is a little more important or critical because it's falling on a small church pastor that maybe doesn't have a staff or things like that, where it's one of those that we I think can still pull it off, but it does take a little creativity and a little extra kind of elbow grease.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was seeing with what you're doing, and the fact that you can give confidence to someone who may say, "Oh, I don't have those kind of resources. I could never do it." You really can, but it is maybe just a little more difficult without having that budget right there to pull from. Well, on that note, tell us a little bit about you and the advocacy you have for small church leaders and denominational roles, and just how, I've just, the little bit I've picked up on you, you seem to really be advocating that we all can find a spot here.
Yes, on kind of two fronts. One, it's who I am. I've always kind of gone into very difficult pastorates or student ministries or music ministries where maybe some major controversy or crisis had just happened, or split or something like that, where it was very difficult to go into and sort of repairing trust, doing some of that, the very hard work of revitalization or replanting or kind of starting a youth group from the ground up. So I also know how lonely that work can be at times. And so from the social media platform that I have by God's grace is just solely to encourage pastors. Like, I don't dive into controversy. I am only on there because there's no other reason for me to be on there than to just encourage pastors that they know that they're not alone. We started a podcast for them. We wrote books for them. We send them notes. When my family and I make cross-country trips to Disneyland or Disney World, like, they know that anytime we pass a church, if I see a car out there, I'm stopping because there might be a pastor there. And we pull in and check on them, see how they're doing, praying with them real quick, and then get back on the road. It's just, they know that's just sort of part of
Easter egg hunt for pastors.
It is.
I love
It's
it.
like, and thankfully, most of our trips are through the South. And so, there's a church on every corner. So we never get anywhere fast, but it's something that's just kind of my heartbeat, is to realize that we are not alone. Even if your church is 30, 40, 50, and 49 of them hate you, you still have some people in your corner. And so I've tried to be that. The other side of that is, we have often, ever since I can remember being involved in Southern Baptist life, have always sort of decried or advocated for small, normal church pastors and leaders being involved in the denominational work. Oftentimes it is larger church guys, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They're incredible leaders, faithful brothers. It's all to be celebrated. But we've often said it, like, we need more small church guys and blank, blank, and blank, and blank. And we haven't always done it. And so I was very excited with the opportunity to do so, with my friend Josh Revis, who nominated me in Nashville, or the initial plan for Bart Barber to do so, because it does put some action behind those words that we always say. Big church, small church, everybody in between always says, we need more representation. We need more representation. And but now we can do it, and then show from that stage that it's not only the large mega church pastors who can preach, but it's also these guys of pastors of churches of 50, 60, 70 people can preach too. And because in our family of 40 something thousand churches, there are some incredible preachers that we may not even know. And so that's kind of the main advocacy that I have, is just encouraging pastors, and then just banging that drum that we're all on the same team, whether our church is running 4,000 or 40. And our goal is the same, to make much of Jesus. And or like I say on Sundays from the Twitter accounts, give them Jesus. Like, that's why we're there. We all have the same message. Jesus saves. We're all with the same mission, make disciples. And we all do it maybe in different ways. Maybe we have more resources available, but we all have the same key resource. And that's the Holy Spirit that indwells us and empowers our mission.
Wow. All right. Well, that's Matt Henslee, and the event is the SBC Pastors Conference. It's next June in Anaheim, California. Matt, tell us where we can find more information.
You can find more information on our Twitter accounts. That's usually a regular source of encouragement. That's one of the things that I did coming on, was making sure that it wasn't just the place that we put announcements, for preachers or whatever it might be, but also just a steady stream of encouragement. So we share blogs and, videos or sermons that we find encouraging ourselves, that we share with others. And that is at SBC Pastors Conf, just CONF, and so it's there. And then on Facebook, it is under really the full name, Southern Baptist Convention Pastors Conference. And and then we have it's a lot to type in, but as you start typing all those words in, I believe it comes in. And then we have a website that right now is really a placeholder, just has a message from me. We will also begin rolling out the speakers there. And that's the sbcpc.net. And so yeah, those are the places you can find more information, and we'd love to connect with you. Usually on Fridays, we share a note. If there's any way we can pray, we leave our direct message open on Twitter so that we get messages from everybody. We send them to our team. We lift whatever prayer request comes in, good, bad, or ugly, whatever it is, we lift up right then and there. And so we really believe this is not just something we're doing for June, but something we're doing from June to June, and just being there for pastors and serving them along the way.
All right. And the big reveal, the 12 Days of Christmas music video, will be Thursday morning, December the 9th.
Yes.
7:30
a.m.
Central Time. And that will be, where will we find that video?
That is going to debut first on our Facebook page. So that long, you have to do a little work to find it, but it's the Southern Baptist Convention Pastors Conference. And we can put that, I'm sure, in the show notes or whatever for you guys as well. But it's our full name, the Southern Baptist Convention Pastors Conference, but I think it's /SBC Pastors Conference.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll be looking for the big reveal. I'm excited to see this music video. And then the show notes will have all of these links as well as that video once it's live. So they'll link to it anyway. So Matt, thank you for helping us understand. And we're excited about how much fun you're going to make all of this process.
It's going to be great. Yes. Thank you, Jennifer.